I haven't said much in the last month. I last spoke about the appeals of the immunity in DC Federal Appeals Court. The DC Federal Appeals Court still has not ruled on that. And I hope that they come out with a ruling this coming week. Um, I'm glad that E. Jean Carroll got her $83 million judgment against Donald Trump because that is justice because of what he did to her and then the constant defamation. And if he continues that, he may very well be sued again. E. Jean Carroll's lawyer has been forthcoming and saying that, she essentially said, I'm too good of a lawyer to tell you now, but should it happen, we'll see. Then there's Judge Engoron and his judgment that's pending in how much Donald Trump owes uh, New York. And then you have Donald Trump's criminal trials. I have sort of taken a backseat on the procedures that's happening in Miami, in Florida, in Judge Cannon's court, because Judge Cannon is essentially slow tracking the case in so many words. And then we have the case that's happening in Georgia, where Donald Trump's attorneys have put in, salacious scandals about some relationship stuff with Fani Willis, and I'm loosely following that, but because it's not substantive to the case, I'm just holding on there as well. Then there's the case in Manhattan District Attorney where it is a criminal case. I haven't heard much about that. My focus has been on any literature coming out about the disqualification clause, whether any other states are disqualifying or making the choice of keeping Donald Trump on their election ballots, and also on the immunity ruling from the DC Circuit Court of Appeals. I, these are what I'm waiting for because I'm going to review the ruling of the DC Circuit, and then it's very likely that Donald Trump will want to move that to the Supreme Court. I hope the DC Circuit uh, puts a time on it because remember, it is an interlocutory appeal, and as long as this case is pending and there's no ruling on it, um, the substantive, the underlying criminal conspiracy case that Jack Smith brought, that is still in Judge Tani Chutkan's court and set for March 4th for trial date, that still is on hold. The whole case is stayed, and Judge Chutkan herself put a ruling out that there will be no more filings in this case. It will be completely stayed. So DC Circuit Court of Appeals need to understand that, and I hope in their judgment they give Donald Trump a short window of time to appeal the case before saying that after that window, the stay on the substantive case is lifted. So Donald Trump has to appeal within that time, and it's expedited in that sense. And if the Supreme Court wants to touch it, they can. Their ruling in Trump v. Thompson welcomes that, saying that they didn't bring it up because Donald Trump didn't bring it up. So the issue of immunity of a former POTUS may very well come up, and the Supreme Court might want to take it up. And the question is how long they take. I believe that in the public interest, it should be done in an expeditious manner. But as my law professor, constitutional law professor used to say, the Supreme Court can do whatever the F it wants. So, we are in many places limbo. We also don't know what's happening with Scott Perry's phone messages uh, because those messages are now, I would say with DOJ, at least 1,600 of them that were ordered by the DC Circuit, remanded to the district court. Then the district court ordered for the review of it. And then out of whatever number they had, I think it was like 1,800, it came down to 1,600 or so that were not protected by the speech or debate clause, and that now is with the DOJ. So there are a lot of questions, and I am eager to see whether Jack Smith has any other indictments coming out from Scott Perry's phone, or whether there are any other indictments coming out before his case goes to trial. Donald Trump's case goes to trial in March, because that could, if it's a superseding indictment and not part of a different case that Jack Smith wants to bring, then the full substantive case gets pushed back. Um, One way or another, I really wish that this case would go forward and conclude before the election season really takes shape. And primary season is in March, and it's not the political reason is the public interest of knowing the truth. The legal reason is the public interest in having a speedy trial. And, you know, the judiciary must be expedient, because these are grave questions of whether or not the person, one of the people running for president of the United States, committed these crimes against the United States. And the people have an interest in knowing that. So, and because there is such a deferential uh, system to the defendant in instances of criminal trials, there is a chance that Donald Trump could be acquitted, because the jury in a criminal trial has to be unanimous for that verdict to carry through. Otherwise, Donald Trump is acquitted. Otherwise, there's a hung jury. And if one person says no, if more than one person says Donald Trump is acquitted, then the jury has to be unanimous. Sounding a little bit like George W. Bush here. So, but George W. Bush, oh, those days of the regular Republican um, things. We now have to deal with this caricature, this monstrosity of MAGA. So I have been quiet for the last month, simply because I don't want to fill the time with talking about speculative things that I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm more about giving you the content and coming out of the courts and explaining it to you in a way that would perhaps make more sense than if you tried to read the opinions and the rulings yourselves, because it's just legalese, and the way that legal opinions and rulings and briefs are written are very confusing. At least it was confusing to me when I started first looking at them, because I wasn't born into the pedigree of a legal family or anything like that. So, uh, my duty, I believe, is to explain these documents to you. I project the next document will be reviewing for you will be the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals ruling on immunity. I still stand by my projection in saying that they're going to say that Donald Trump does not have any governmental immunity against criminal prosecution, and in a sense also say that former presidents don't have that. Now, as I said, it'll go up on appeal, and the Supreme Court has to be cognizant of the time. Um, if major incidences happen in the other cases, I will come out and talk about it.